All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the patch review. I'm Breaky CBK, of course, and a new patch yet again coming out. They're starting to release patches fairly frequently, which is pretty cool. Again, no very significant changes for the most part, as has been the trend at least so far. I haven't really looked at this one that came out this morning, but it's been kind of in increments over time, and I like it. It's cool to see the very active design team keeping on top of it. So looking forward to seeing what more changes we have today. With that said, patch 1.1.2 is the patch today. I'm speaking on December 31st, actually, so the last day of the year before we head to 2022. I'm going to be trying it out after I go over this patch review here, but figured go over the changes and give my quick opinions on them and then move forward. I don't want this to be the longest video slash stream here when it comes to covering the patch. Want to keep it pretty concise and make it more of just a quick idea of what we're looking at. So we'll start from the top, and a couple of general changes it looks like coming out between some more bug fixes as well as some decent ones that will impact everyone. Right off the bat, you look at some channels that were added. It's pretty cool, including a looking for group channel, an LFG channel. So that's nice to see. It'll make it ideally a little bit easier to find groups. Increase the drop rate of legendary items during games. That's an interesting one to me, and I'm curious to play now in terms of what kind of drops we're looking at. The only legendary item I've gotten is one from the tutorial, obviously, as everyone gets, really. But I've gotten another legendary item from a bag opening. I've not gotten one from dropping in game. I know it is possible and it's happened, but I've not gotten one in game. So if I actually get one in game now, maybe even a couple, then maybe a fairly significant change there. But it'll be interesting to see what they did here. And I kind of like this in that if they actually increased it quite a bit, because frankly, as we've come to realize, the gear itself isn't very impactful. I mean, there's some stat that's going around where between like the base gear to like the best in slot gear that you could have, it's like a 5% overall stat increase. That really is not a lot in the big picture, right? So I personally would like to see an overhaul of the item system, even incorporating like a crafting system of sorts. That's for another discussion though. But for what's currently in play right now, it is a good feeling, even though it's a very minimal stat increase most of the time, to still see that legendary or purple or the epic item, right? So I actually like this change a lot, and I think it's for the better, certainly, especially if they increased it quite a bit. Other than that, it's not a whole lot else going on. Internally, they're preparing for EU servers. Personally, I'm at A, so it doesn't affect me too much, but it does affect the general health of the population in the game. Obviously, there's plenty of EU players that'll certainly appreciate it when it comes to that. All right, so balance changes. We'll start with sudden death. Round 4, they made a change to it in the latest patch. Now they're kind of reverting that somewhat in this patch. It's now, the damage tick is now the same as stage 3, but it also reduces all healing by 30%. So it basically puts a Mortal Strike debuff on you permanently of 30% for a sudden death. And this changes towards double healer compositions. Ugh. People are, oh man, yeah, double healer is just not good. People that run double healer, yeah, no, thank you. So anything that they do to nerf that composition, I'm definitely all for. All right, assassins, aka rogues. The whirling build is pretty good. We want annihilate to be a little bit better. So annihilate energy cost reduced from 50 to 45. So annihilate. Let me actually pull up the wiki real quickly. Arena of Kings. Should have had this prepare. My apologies. Trying to remember. Is annihilate like the eviscerate style ability? Let's see. No, it's not. So this is it strikes your opponent with both daggers, dealing a good chunk of damage, and it applies toxins as well. Okay. It also deals bonus damage when using it at a stealth. So this is basically that opening backstab assassinate combo, essentially, that reducing the energy cost, pretty good. It's not 50 to 45. I don't really, that just doesn't feel like something. It's one of those, if I played a lot more SAS, I could appreciate it, but it depends on the energy cost of other abilities that you're using in succession. If it allows you to use Annihilate now, instead of having to wait for that energy tick as you did before with a combo of abilities, then it's actually a pretty big change, right? So if that's the case, then pretty significant. I can't say off the top of my head, but potentially a really, really big change. Puncture damage increased by 3%. So we're looking at puncture here. Yeah, this is the one that essentially gets you a good amount of energy. Deals physical damage every second and cannot be dispelled. It also silences when you use it out of combat. So it's not the energy one that I was thinking of. Apologies. But so what do they do? So the puncture damage increased by 3%. Okay. So it's that dot that they increased by 3%. Pretty minimal. Slash damage increased by 3%. This is the eviscerate, essentially that combo finisher. 3% damage. Again, very minor numbers, but as we've always talked about these patch changes, that clearly is the thing with these designers. They don't want to go overboard with these changes. They want to slowly, put these out until they find that sweet spot. So making some slight changes here. And then Temple Strike cooldown reduced from 14 to 13 seconds. Temple Strike, the incapacitate. It's always a tough word to say. Essentially a gouge style ability. Being able to use that a second more frequently, pretty good. The crowd control source of a assassin is certainly very powerful, and what helps make the assassin a relevant class, in my opinion, in terms of being able to be played. He's all about locking something down and allowing the other DPS to, burst them down and kill them, providing the crowd control, certainly. So, yeah, pretty solid changes across the board. Definitely getting some buffs across the board, and I would say needed. In terms of just overall use of the hero here. So champion, let's see, where did champion go? Basic attack damage reduced by 3%. So pretty good nerf. Obviously a lot of basic attacks are coming out throughout a whole match. You take it down by 3%, that certainly adds up. Slashing strike bleeding duration reduced from 3 to 2 seconds, so less of a bleed. Yet another damage decrease that you're just able to rely on from before. And then enrage no longer provides damage reduction. Interesting. Okay. So, no longer providing damage reduction as well for Enrage. Yeah, that's, it's... So, champions certainly getting hit. They've continued to get hit from patch to patch, right? In the previous patch, in the very first patch that we covered, I mean, in the last week, and this is now the third patch in the last week, every single patch they've gotten, nerfs in most of their abilities. I feel like they got a couple of buffs in certain aspects, but nerfs in most of them. Champions have been overperforming, as they even say. So yeah, they're trying to find that sweet spot again as far as the damage nerfs, and makes sense here. Lich, we know the Lich is overpowering at all ratings. We'll continue to monitor. Okay, so no changes, but they're aware of Lich being maybe a little too powerful. Nihilist. Okay. Gloom Amplify reduced from 3% to 2% per stack. I haven't played Nihilist myself, so I'm not very familiar with the ability names. What are we looking at from Gloom? Gloom Amplify. On the wiki, I don't see anything about Gloom. Oh, it's not coming up. Anyways, so Amplify reduced from 3% to 2% per stack. So it sounds like it's a nerf, the idea of amplifying some damage, at my guess. So per stack, depending on how many stacks you get, if it's 3 stacks, that's overall 6% nerf, right? Or I guess a 3% nerf. If it's 5 stacks, it's a 5% nerf. So, depending on the stacks, it certainly adds up and can be fairly significant. If using an Orb of Smoke now temporarily increases health by 750. Okay. Okay. So that's a little bit of a buff there. Maybe makes the healing Nihilist a little more relevant. I know what they did a change to Nihilist as well in the previous patch that certainly tried to make the healing aspect of a Nihilist a bit more relevant with the Shadow Affinity, right? Yeah, it was a Shadow Affinity ability. They increased the potency of that as well. So yeah, I think the designers are certainly trying to say, hey, Nihilist, good damage class, but also happens to be yet another healer you can play. Orb of Smoke power reduced from 82 to 35. Oh, wow. So Orb of Smoke is more of a tank ability rather than a damage increase ability now, is essentially what we're looking at here. Okay. Yeah, that's quite the hit. But again, it really is it's a driving home the point that we don't want Nihilist, not that they don't want, but they want to take down the power level of the damage Nihilist and, increase the power level of the heal Nihilist. So there you go. Ranger needed more raw numbers to compete with other DPS classes. At 100% agree. They got a slight buff in the last batch. Looks like more coming here. Elemental Arrow base damage increased by 2%. Rain of Arrows damage increased by 6%. So another buff to Rain of Arrows. And then Twisting Shot damage increased by 4%. So just straight up, let's slightly tweak some numbers in an increased sense for several of these abilities and see how it does. I like it. I mean, a Ranger, it's goes without saying. I mean, they are the weakest DPS class. I feel like Rangers in certain compositions can certainly still be very good. And if you have a comfortable Ranger player, the crowd control that they can bring, they're very anti-champion, which is good. They can do some decent DPS, but they are underperforming amongst others for sure. So bringing them up a little bit, like to see. And then that leads us to Wizard. So Wizard, the Frostbolt damage reduced by 4%, reverted the mana nerf from 220 to 200. So yeah, in the last patch, they actually increased the mana cost of Frostbolt, which, as we talked, I mean, was a pretty significant change on top of a couple other things they did. Which was also affecting Ice Spike. However, from the next line, we see they reverted Ice Spike to require Chill instead of Freeze. They made a change last patch where they made it require Freeze, which really took away the damage output and the burst damage of a Frost Mage specifically, or Frost Wizard. And we were seeing a lot of Wizards go to Fire after that, or even Electric to a certain extent. But this is them saying, realizing, okay, maybe they overdid it. Let's bring it back slightly. So now it requires Chill. Hypothermia now always roots for 3 seconds. So no stun, it's a root instead. I like that. Cooldown increased from 16 to 18 seconds. Stun duration reduced from 1.8 to 1.7 seconds. Oh, so it still stuns, but it also roots you on top of that. Interesting. So, okay. Yeah, so with this revert, I mean, this is pretty big. And on top of nerfing the mana cost again, yeah, sure, they slightly decreased the damage of Frostbolt, but Frost Wizards are back for sure. Magic Missile now deals 2 times damage against chilled targets, so you can mix in some Magic Missile DPS to have some synergy there. Can't wait to play against Frost Mages again, or Frost Wizards, yay. That's my reaction there. And it looks like we have some pictures of new arenas. I don't know if these are in, or if these are just like teases. Doesn't say anything about a new arena. Or these are profile backgrounds. Oh, they're profile backgrounds. Got you. Added limited edition profile backgrounds. Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, those are fun. All right, so there you go. Patch 1.1.2. Some solid changes across the board. Nihilist heals trying to get a little more relevant. Assassin buffs. Champions, once again, nerfs. They're monitoring Liches. Rangers got some buffs across the board with damage. And Wizards reverting some changes to them for the Frost spec specifically. And Frost is back on the table, baby. That's the quick summary. And there you go. So thanks for checking out my patch 1.1.2 video here for Arena of Kings. If you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitch as well. Break CBK, of course. And I look forward to doing much more of this content. Until next time.